fucking awesome. I just had a blast in there.
Yeah, think he's gonna do something which is never been done.
AJ said, and everybody knows, he's not a real boxer. There's levels to this game, and he was way out of his level, way out of his...
Jake Paul smashes Anthony Joshua's car mirror after humiliating loss. And that single moment told you everything. After being completely outclassed, instead of accepting defeat with dignity, Jake chose frustration over professionalism. Smashing AJ's car mirror wasn't anger, it was embarrassment spilling over. When the fight ends your hype, tantrums become your loudest statement.
But I wish I had more than 3 weeks, I think, to prepare, to maybe have like put on some more muscle to be able to like sit there, hit him, and then I should have gone to altitude to train.
After being chased, broken, and laughed at like that, Jake Paul smashing Anthony Joshua's Range Rover suddenly makes perfect sense. When you get humiliated in the ring and exposed by real fighters, frustration spills out elsewhere. Smashing a car isn't toughness, it's a meltdown after reality hits.
From round one, running away, jumping up and down, falling down on the floor, yeah? When he could not move anymore, he got hit and he got a broken jaw because he was breathing at the same time he got hit, and we should give him bravery for that? No, not bravery.
Eddie Hearn doesn't sugarcoat it at all. Calling it a premeditated move says everything about Jake Paul's mindset. This wasn't emotion in the heat of the moment. This was calculated frustration. After failing in the ring, he chose to lash out elsewhere, and that only deepened the embarrassment.
It is, what was it, about an hour ago, so I guess everything's calmed down a little bit. I thought it was a bitch move, if I'm honest, because anytime you...
Eddie Hearn lays it bare. Jake Paul wasn't there to win, he was there to survive. From the opening rounds, it was movement, holding, and damage control. When your entire game plan is survival, losing your composure afterward and smashing cars feels like the natural fallout.
At the end of the day, Jake had one job, and that was to try and survive. I mean, he was never ever going to win the fight, ever. And if you would have said to me, do I think he'll go 6 rounds? I would have said absolutely not. I mean, I felt that it would take AJ a couple of rounds to get hold of him, because I knew Jake can move a bit and he'd be moving off the back foot.
Johnny Nelson sums it up perfectly. This fight was a reality check Jake Paul couldn't handle. When Jake himself admits he couldn't do what he thought he could, that's exposure. And once the illusion collapses in the ring, the frustration outside it starts to make sense. Sure.
You've got to make this kid have a reality check. And that's what he actually did, because Jake Paul himself said, I was shattered. You know, this guy, everything I thought.
Carl Froch doesn't mince words. Watching Jake Paul struggle in the ring and then lash out at Anthony Joshua's car shows a man completely out of his depth. He was humiliated round after round, and now his frustration spills over into childish destruction. Smashing the Range Rover isn't defiance, it's desperation. This isn't toughness. It's the aftermath of being thoroughly exposed. Every move he makes now screams panic, embarrassment, and a reality check that the world won't let him forget.
Talk bullshit, but where does he go from here? What does he do? I'm not even arsed, man. I can't be arsed with this bullshit anymore, this clown world. It's a joke shop. It's just a big fucking... It's just an absolute...
Duke McKenzie hits the nail on the head. Jake Paul's entire strategy was survival, not competition. He knew he couldn't win, so he ran, hid, and clung to life in the ring like a terrified novice. And when survival fails, frustration erupts, which is exactly what happened with Anthony Joshua's Range Rover. Every smash of that car screams embarrassment, a meltdown after being exposed, and a harsh reminder that hype can't replace real skill. Jake's meltdown was inevitable.
Jake Paul knew exactly what his tactics would be going into that fight. He was in there just to survive. He wasn't in there to win. He didn't even try to win. He couldn't win. So when you know in your mindset, you know in your mind's eye, I can't win that fight. What do? I've got to survive. How do I survive? I've got to run like a thief.
Spencer Oliver paints the brutal truth. Jake Paul was nothing more than a moving target. Anthony Joshua could have ended it any time, but allowed Jake to scuttle around like a frightened rabbit. Only one clean punch, yet it destroyed him, breaking his jaw in 2 places. Jake's so-called toughness crumbled under real pressure, and his post-fight meltdown, smashing AJ's Range Rover, only cemented how pathetic his behavior was. When you fail in the ring this spectacularly, tantrums outside don't impress anyone. They expose just how fragile and humiliated he truly is.
Anthony Joshua, I think that he needed to get the job done inside the distance, and he done it. Look, he could have done it at any given point. I think that he could have cut the ring off whenever he wanted to and got Jake Paul out of there. He took his time on that. He allowed Jake Paul to run around like a rabbit and throw the occasional shot from time to time. And I think he only landed one clean punch, didn't he, Anthony Joshua? And that was the one that broke his jaw in two.
Pain Game breaks it down. Jake Paul's strategy was avoidance and holding. He dropped his knees, shuffled, and ran as if survival was a full-time job. And yet, even that couldn't save his dignity. Every dash around the ring highlighted his fear in smashing Anthony Joshua's Range Rover. Afterward made it clear Jake Paul reacts to humiliation with childish destruction. This wasn't fight, it was panic spilling into reality, proving that outside the hype and cameras, he's a lightweight in mentality, completely unprepared for accountability.
Just run, but generally, the game plan was to run a lot, hold whenever he had to. He dropped his knees for a fucking takedown quite a lot.
Johnny Nelson hits the core of Jake Paul's disaster. This fight added nothing. No skill growth, no credibility, no earnings boost. With no real challenge in front of him, Jake couldn't develop as a boxer, and his antics post-fight, destroying AJ's Range Rover, only highlighted his insecurity. Humiliation outside the ring mirrored his ineptitude inside it. For a fighter whose brand relies on hype, reality was brutal, and childish revenge, like smashing property, doesn't disguise how exposed and amateurish he really is.
He didn't do anything for his career, for his bank account, everything. For his development. I don't think he did anything for his development because he didn't have somebody in front of him that wanted to test his development.
Adam Smith hits the uncomfortable truth. Jake Paul's actions both inside and outside the ring were a disaster. While there may be gray areas, there's no excuse for a grown man to humiliate himself, get exposed, and then lash out at Anthony Joshua's Range Rover. This wasn't strategy, it was pure panic spilling over. From dodging every meaningful punch to running for survival, Jake's performance was pathetic, and his post-fight meltdown only amplified the embarrassment. Hype and bravado couldn't save him, and smashing property proves that his composure is non-existent under pressure. Analysts, fans, and even casual observers saw a fighter completely outclassed, frustrated, and childishly reactive.
The sport, it just shouldn't happen. But we don't know. As with all these things, there's always a grey area, isn't there? But,
The weight concept breaks it down. Jake Paul's fight wasn't about winning. It was about surviving long enough to throw one punch and hope for a miracle. Anthony Joshua's timing was slightly disrupted, but let's be honest. Jake's survival mode showcased how outmatched he truly was. And when the fight ended, Jake's frustration exploded, smashing Anthony's Range Rover. This wasn't courage, it was humiliation spilling over. Running, holding, and tantrums outside the ring confirm that hype cannot mask incompetence. Every move highlighted his fragility and lack of real boxing acumen, making him the laughingstock of both fans, analysts alike.
But I think Jake fought a very, how do I survive long enough to land a right hand type of fight, and it made it a little difficult for AJ to get his timing. No excuses. AJ didn't look great. I'll be honest. He didn't look great. He didn't look like, an AJ we thought we were going to get, the marauder, the guy that was going to come forward and bang out Jake in one round.
The weight concept breaks it down. Jake Paul's fight wasn't about winning. It was about surviving long enough to throw one punch and hope for a miracle. Anthony Joshua's timing was slightly disrupted, but let's be honest. Jake's survival mode showcased how outmatched he truly was. And when the fight ended, Jake's frustration exploded, smashing Anthony's Range Rover. This wasn't courage, it was humiliation spilling over. Running, holding, and tantrums outside the ring confirm that hype cannot mask incompetence. Every move highlighted his fragility and lack of real boxing acumen, making him the laughingstock of both fans, analysts alike.
It's only half sold. Now they'll probably paper it out and give a load of tickets away and make it look busy. But this fight has not got the attraction it needed. It really hasn't. No one's really that interested.
Eddie Hearn gives credit where it's due, but the bigger story is Jake Paul's humiliation. Surviving a few rounds while dodging and holding isn't skill, it's desperation. Being knocked out and having your jaw shattered is a brutal reminder that hype cannot replace ability. The fact that Jake showed a toughness only highlights how little else he had. He was outclassed in every aspect. And smashing Anthony Joshua's Range Rover afterward perfectly mirrors the chaos of his in-ring collapse. A man exposed, frustrated, and desperately lashing out. Hearn's praise for toughness can't hide the embarrassment. For a fighter who built his brand on bravado, the post-fight meltdown was predictable and pathetic. Every action, from running inside the ring to destroying property, screams panic and humiliation, making Jake Paul a cautionary tale for hype-driven fighters.
Yes, it took AJ a couple of rounds to get hold of him, and then he knocked him spark out and broke his jaw. It was a frustrating 2-3 rounds maybe, because Jake was moving so much, holding.
Dave Allen calls it exactly as it was, a one-sided showcase exposing Jake Paul. Sure, he's fit and has some cleverness, but cleverness doesn't save you from being humiliated by a world-class heavyweight. The so-called journey Jake is on is littered with moments of embarrassment, both in the ring and outside, as seen with the Range Rover incident. Fitness and minor cleverness cannot mask failure. Jake's survival tactics weren't strategy, they were avoidance, and his post-fight tantrum is proof of how fragile his persona is when real skill confronts hype.
But the fight was, it weren't a fight, was it? It was really, really one-sided. Jake Paul, yeah, I've got to give him credit really, because he's super fit. And he's pretty clever really. Like, he'd make a good, a good journeyman.
David Hay recognizes Jake Paul's limited success, but context is everything. The overhand right game plan failed, he was taking heavy punishment, and his jaw was broken by the end. Surviving while hoping for luck isn't skill, it's desperation. And the meltdown outside the ring, smashing Anthony Joshua's Range Rover, perfectly reflects the in-ring chaos. Every aspect of Jake's behavior, running, holding, hoping, and then lashing out, exposes him as a hype-driven fighter, completely out of his depth. Effort alone doesn't erase embarrassment, it magnifies it. Hayes' acknowledgement of the plan can't hide the reality. Jake Paul's performance and subsequent meltdown paint the picture of a fighter who was exposed, humiliated, and childish in response, a warning for anyone overestimating hype over skill.
Got the knockout, everyone was expecting it. It's very difficult to pin someone down when they're not trying to engage. Jake's game plan was a good one, was to use lateral movement and hope to land a big overhand right at some stage to catch AJ off guard. Didn't quite work out, but you got to give Jake credit. Took some big shots there. I think he's got a broken jaw or something, spitting blood at the end of the fight. No, anything's possible. He gave it a go. He dared to be great. Didn't work out for him, understandably. That's why he was such a massive underdog.
After watching Jake Paul crumble under Anthony Joshua, survive with sheer luck, and then lash out by smashing AJ's Range Rover, one thing is clear, hype can only carry you so far. Every misstep, every frantic dash around the ring, and every childish tantrum outside showcased a fighter completely out of his depth. Analysts, fans, and even casual viewers saw a man exposed, humiliated, and desperate. This isn't boxing brilliance, it's a cautionary tale of what happens when ego and hype meet reality. Now the question is, can Jake Paul ever recover from this level of public humiliation, or is his career destined to be remembered for tantrums and failed hype? Comment below and let us know, do you think Jake can truly bounce back, or is this the moment boxing history writes him off forever?